Over the last few days, we've been warning of abnormally high tides across the southwest. This is essentially storm surge. We've also been talking about waves, and we've also been talking about seas. So we got three things there: tides, waves, and seas. And combining them together, we get storm surge. So what exactly is storm surge? If you're on the coast of Western Australia, you're probably seeing something like this right now. Very sort of choppy conditions, big waves, maybe a bit of coastal inundation. Storm surge is caused by big low pressure systems, whether it's a tropical cyclone or something like what's hitting Western Australia now, a big low in the mid latitudes. Now, this low pressure system is actually less pressure is exerted on the ocean than the surrounding areas. That's why it's called low pressure. And pressure, well, it's measured in kilograms per meter squared. So it's kind of a measure of weight over an area. And if you think of it like that, there's less weight across this region of the ocean than there is across some other region that has high pressure, more weight on it. And as such, there's actually a bulge in the ocean that happens underneath low pressure areas. And that bulge gets enhanced with winds as well. Winds go clockwise around low pressure systems. So across to this side of the West Australian coast, you'll see a fairly big bulge. Now, I've sort of visualized that here, noticing how the wind will sweep that bulge right to sort of the eastern side of it. You get this windswept piling of the water combined with the bulge of the ocean, and that's what's that abnormally high tide coming through. Now, of course, when you get big waves and you get big seas, you also have that to think about. And all these things are additive, which means one adds on top of the other, adds on top of the other. So if you get that bulging ocean I just showed you, and then you add on the fact that we have storm waves and choppy seas, so the big waves created by those winds, and then sometimes this all happens during high tide, well, you can get a abnormally high tide that is at times meters above the normal high tide mark. And that's what storm surge is, and it leads to significant coastal inundation. Now, thankfully for Western Australia, it doesn't look like that's necessarily the case for these areas. Fairly big coastline that is usually battered by these sort of low pressure systems. But at other parts of Australia, such as the Queensland coast, they're particularly susceptible to this sort of storm surge in tropical cyclones.